Hey everyone, I'm Hunter Molzen, one of the founders of Barbell Apparel, and we're here today with another episode of the Breaking Boundaries podcast. I have the honor of chatting with Matt Kerekes today. He's the lead singer of a band called Citizen. People in my team introduced me to this band, and I listen to them all the time when I'm working out. It's great music. If you need some good music to listen to during your next training session, be sure to check them out on Spotify. It's Citizen, just like the word. But you guys, you make some great music. It's awesome to have you here today, Matt.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love the brand. I love all the clothes and stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I think Kyle from my staff found you guys organically because he enjoyed the music and then noticed that you were into fitness. And we sent Matt some clothing for everyone listening, and that's how we got introduced to him. But you're a pretty fit guy. It looks like you spend a lot of time exercising, doing MMA, and kind of maintain that even with the demands of touring and all that.
Yeah. Fitness has always been a huge part of my life, like most people. But I feel like it's kind of, now I feel like working out and Muay Thai and stuff, which is what I primarily do, is like more mainstream than ever, which is great. But back when Citizen first started, it wasn't. And I was kind of like, one of the few people that seemingly were frontmen, I guess, in a band that were very into it in my world of music, which would be like emo, alternative, kind of, like that kind of vibe, that was really into it. And, I wake up every day and I immediately go to the gym. It's the first thing I do every single day. And then I do Muay Thai usually at around 6:30. I got it today in about 3 hours here. So, big part of my life. So
yeah, no, I feel you. I mean, I read a little bit of the bio questions we sent you over before the interview, and it was kind of a similar journey for me. Like I was not particularly athletically gifted when I was in like elementary school. Starting in middle school, I started getting into some sports. I did a lot of skateboarding and some other things, but I was pretty skinny.
Extreme sports.
Extreme sports. But I was like really skinny. I was like I kind of grew all at once. So I was like 6'1" and maybe 145 or 150 pounds. And
Wow.
like on me, that's real thin. I have like not a super small bone structure. But it was like sophomore year in high school or whatever. I was like, man, I need to fix this. And so I started going to like a local Gold's Gym and working out there. And I remember this is maybe back in 2005 or something, right? Before Instagram was really a thing, before Facebook was a thing, before fitness had all these outlets to get popularized. And I was like the one kid in the gym. It was me and like a bunch of, older people and then like actual bodybuilders. Like, Jay Cutler actually was at this gym often when I was working out.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I remember back then, like I was one of the few young people that liked to work out back then. And it seems that as social media has advanced, it's gotten more popular. But like you said, I'm sure when you first started, I mean, especially in the touring world, you're kind of like forging that path alone. And then it's become kind of more popular over the years.
Yeah, a bit, So like I said, in my scene, primarily, like there's not, many people at the time too into it. And then we started doing things like Warped Tour, where we would tour with a variety of different bands would be on the tour. And once you hang out with the metal bands and stuff, that's where all the weightlifters are, you know what I'm saying? And all that kind of stuff. And so that was pretty cool to experience that. And so that was 2013 we first did Warped Tour, and we did it again in 2015. But when we first did Warped Tour, it was the first time I met a whole bunch of people on tour that were into the same things as I was, and that was very cool, And I've just like you. I mean, if you're 6'1" and you were 145, I could imagine, because I'm only 5'9". And I weighed 145 my sophomore year, and I was tiny, so that's crazy. But I kind of got lost along the way. I don't remember what I was saying.
No, it's fine. We could circle it back. I mean, so yeah, you it seems like you got into fitness during high school because of like similar reasons, right? You were skinny and you wanted to put on mass. So was your first introduction to fitness, was it more like lifting, just general weightlifting, or?
Yeah, so I didn't play sports growing up. My brother was a very good athlete. I mean, still is. But I was like computer music guy growing up, but all my friends were the football players and the wrestlers. And everybody was small. And then we got into high school, and around my sophomore year, I noticed all of my friends were pretty jacked. And I was still a noodle, and I was like, oh man, I need to bulk up a little bit. I'm looking puny, so that was pretty much insecurity is what made me start lifting, because all of my friends were so fit and pretty big and burly, and I was just the scrawny little wimp, so I that's what made me hit the gym. And yeah. So.
Yeah, for sure. Like in many ways, form follows function, right? So if a lot of your friends or your brother, or whoever, were doing athletics, like they'll build muscle just kind of like by the nature of their activity. But if you feel like I was similar, right? Like I liked skateboarding. I was a musician too. Like I had dreams of being in a band at one point, and then went after a little bit and realized I would not actually like the touring lifestyle or the demands that it would take to be successful. And so pivoted out of that. But I was kind of similar. Like I didn't really play sports. And I didn't like team sports. And so I didn't really have this kind of hobby that would foster building muscle or a physique or anything like that. And then I found weightlifting, and I really liked that. And I enjoyed kind of that I could do it alone. I could measure progress. It kind of like appeals to the inner nerd, right? Like weightlifting is like, well, I can kind of like systematize this, break it down. I can watch how my lifts go up. I can see how my weight changes on the scale.
And if you're a musician too, weightlifting is perfect, because if you're writing music, I go to the gym and I'm just getting a pump on, and I'm listening to the demos, or I'm listening to, it's like what you said, like, oh, I could do it alone. I don't like team sports. I like that as well. And that's a good point that I've actually never thought of, is you could kind of like digest all your other hobbies within weightlifting. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And like you can't tell because you're wearing this baggy shirt. It's the style right now. But if people go look at your Instagram, like you've definitely you're not skinny anymore. You've put on some serious amounts of muscle mass, and you managed to maintain that and be consistent with it while being a touring musician. So first off, I think it could relate really well to anyone that has strict demands on their time, or maybe finds themselves challenged in terms of like a regimen to be able to get into the gym and adhere to like nutrition and sleep and lifting. You're able to do that while touring, which is probably one of the more physically demanding jobs in terms of like you're sleeping in a different place every night. You're up late because you're playing shows, and you still have to manage to eat well, sleep, and get to the gym. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your touring schedule is typically like, and then how you manage to squeeze fitness into all of that?
So when you're on tour, at least at like, a lower level of touring, right? We're not playing arenas, and we don't get catering. You know what I'm saying?
Not yet, right?
Not yet. Yeah, of course, right? One day we'll make it. No, but you pretty much, so you wake up and you eat at gas stations all day. You go to Pilots and Flying J's, and I found that in terms of eating, it's hard because like when you're just driving all the time, you want to be like, you want to feel happy and you're not happy, or you're riding in. So like, what do? You stop at a gas station. Your first instinct is like, oh, I want this Carmelo bar. Oh, I want this bag of Sour Patch, which I still to this day indulge in, knowing I shouldn't. But like it just being overall uncomfortable and you're not getting good sleep creates bad habits. So you gotta remember that, and that's something I've been doing lately. So it's like, so if I go to the gas station, I just on tour, all I do is count my protein. That's all I do. I noticed that if I just get like, I don't know, my body weight and a half in protein a day, like I hold whatever physique I have at the time, or whatever, level of whatever. So I pretty much, my rules are just, is it fried? Don't eat it. Is there sugar in it? I guess depends on how much, but don't eat it. So, I go to gas stations. I opt for the natural section. So there's the prepackaged hard-boiled eggs and the Chobani yogurts. And I do get bags of beef jerky, though. So I'm pretty sure that it's really high in sodium, right? I've heard conflicting things. Is sodium bad or is it good? I don't know.
I think it depends on who you ask, but some people, I think people in the more like traditional medical community might have less good things to say about it, but some people in the athletic space have a lot of really great things to say about it. So I don't know, not an expert, but I'm sure you're fine. And it's a great way to get protein for sure from a gas station. That's probably like one of my go-to snacks if I'm on the road too and need to get some protein in. And it looks like, like that's worked well for you. You obviously, if you're just monitoring protein, you're getting enough of that in to maintain your muscle mass, and you're not your body composition from what I've seen in your Instagram looks pretty good. So it's not like you're overeating either. Do you do anything specifically to make sure you're not overeating, or do you just kind of think you have a good intuitive sense of how that comes together?
No, yeah, if I eat a lot of bullshit, you know what I'm saying, then I fall off. But if I'm eating smart and I am fortunate to be able to indulge in food very much so without putting on a lot of weight, so it's just my personal experience is I could eat, as long as I'm not like loading up on the carbs, really, you know what I'm saying? But I feel the best when I eat carbs, right? Yeah. So like, it's this like, I don't know, but yeah, I just eat until I'm full, and I try to eat not heavy things on the road specifically. When I'm home, I do like sweet potatoes and steak and, stuff that I cook, and which is actually kind of a new thing. I notice as I get older, like I can't get away with as much because I used to be like a McDonald's, Taco Bell guy. And, I'd go crush 2 Big Macs after a workout. I'd crush a few McDoubles before a workout. And it's funny how I used to do that and I would feel like ready to go and like really strong. And now I do that and I'm like, I feel like I want to take a nap and I feel horrible and I get heart palpitations. You know what I'm saying? It's horrible.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's funny to hear. So you're 28 saying like, as I get older, but I do think that like there is a shift somewhere in your mid 20s, like maybe 26 or 27 was right when I was like, man, I can't just kind of like do whatever I want anymore. I have to be a little bit more intentional about this. And I don't know like how much of it is age versus kind of like the demands on your time as you get older and you're like less overall active, right? Because like someday I'll spend a lot of time outdoors, right? And so like some days if I'm outside from like 6 a.m. and sometimes I'll be out past dark, right? So I've been outside for like 12 hours and I've basically been out walking or hiking 12 miles and done other physical activity and stuff like that. And just basically shredded calories all day long. I can come back and eat whatever I want and I'll feel fine because like my body just incinerates it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I don't do that, like if I did one of those days and ate a bunch of Taco Bell or McDonald's, I'd feel fine. My body just needs the food, whatever food I can give it. But if I had like a normal work day where, I wake up, I work out in my garage for an hour and then I sit at a desk and do whatever else and I ate something like that, I'd feel terrible. So obviously part of it's probably like biological age. But the other thing too is like when you're younger, you're a kid, you're kind of you don't have the demands of like a career or like a full blown adult. So like, at least for me, I filled that space with being like a lot of active stuff, right? Like I'd skateboard, I'd go hang out with friends, I'd do whatever. And so you are just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like I remember when I was a kid, I'd be so hungry after I get back from like a day of doing whatever. Yeah. And that doesn't happen as an adult unless I've done something like purposefully active. So I think that plays into it a little bit as well. And then like for you, when you're at home, right, you say you wake up and you're working out in the morning and then doing Muay Thai at night. Like that's a pretty active schedule. Are you doing that like regularly every day during the week when you're at home?
Yes. I take 2 days off a week.
Yeah, so you're doing 2-a-days, 5 days a week. That's a lot of exercise.
Yeah. And I guess that does make sense because I always feel, even if I'm eating like pretty okay, which once again is hard when you're at a gas station every day. But I feel the worst all the time, you know? And if I do indulge, maybe that has to do with what you're saying, where I'm just kind of like sitting around. Because touring isn't like, it's funny because like people will be like, oh, you're on tour, like so awesome. You're doing so many cool things. And it's like, if you put a fucking GoPro on my head, what you would see is me laying down in the van for like 8 hours, getting out, loading in the gear, doing a body weight workout, and then I sit down and then I wait to play, and then I'm load the gear back in the van, repeat every day, you know? So I am doing a lot of sitting compared to what I do at home, which, you know, 2 a days. But it's I do still try to work out on the road, and I have an app called Mad Bars. I don't know if you ever heard of Mad Bars, but it's like it's like body weight workouts I just do usually on tour, unless I can hit a gym. But usually, you know, gyms are a luxury on the road, you know. So
probably often don't have the time to go find a gym, drive there, and, you know, get your workout in, go back.
Yeah. I know anything that's like, I mean, because like when you're driving or traveling or flying or whatever for hours and hours and hours, it's funny how like you're doing nothing, but you're still tired when you're done doing that. Like you're done. Sure. I'm done laying down in the van, or done driving, or done sitting in the airplane seat, and I get to my destination. I'm like, oh, I like plop down in a seat, you know, like I'm like all tired from sitting. To be consistent, it's best to have everything accessible. So like when I get to a venue or a hotel, you know, if the hotel doesn't have it's like the last thing I want to do is get in an Uber and go to a gym, or walk to a gym, or, you know, or like go get a Lime scooter. You know, I just like don't want to do that, you know? So the best thing for me personally, and I feel like for a lot of people is to just bust out, have a plan to follow on your phone, and just bust out, you know, the workout where you can, like in your immediate area. And that, I've noticed that's the best way to stay consistent. If I'm ever scoping out gyms on the road, it lasts a few days, and then I fall off because it's just annoying. You know, I'm just tired. Yeah. And so, and I usually bring like a cooler or some sort. Maybe I'll just use like a suitcase, and I have a bunch of Epic bars and a bunch of core powers, you know, just with fiber gummies, of course, because if you drink a bunch of core powers and you don't have fiber, you can't shit, right? So I just eat the fiber gummies, drink the core powers, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So, because when you're traveling, that's hard too. Eating is hard. It's all hard. If you're not at home, you don't have the grocery store, like it's very easy to indulge in things that are bad because you're uncomfortable and you're tired, just everything. You just want quick reward. And how do you do that? Like junk food. And, you know, at least that's my personal experience. So.
No, I think there's a lot of interesting things to unpack there. I mean, it seems like whether you're doing this consciously or not, like you've basically been able to remove a lot of barriers to adhering to kind of like your fitness goals where you're traveling, right? And so it's like, even though you're stuck in a gas station, you'll grab protein bars, beef jerky, hard-boiled eggs, yogurt, all like relatively high protein, low fat type of snacks that are still getting you like adequate macronutrient intake to at least like maintain the muscle mass you have. And then squeezing in body weight workouts where you can, also again helping you maintain the muscle mass that you have. And then when you're not on tour, you just hammer the gym. And that's probably where I'd guess you make most or all of your progress on your lifts and stuff like that. And then it's kind of like back to tour maintenance mode. And then you kind of go in these cycles. But I think that it's really good advice, whether you mean it to be advice or not, for someone that does have to travel like that. It's like, you can make it work, right? Like it may not be ideal, and you may not be able to like pile on a bunch of extra muscle while you're touring, you're traveling, whatever, but you can maintain what you have in pretty suboptimal conditions, right? Like surviving on beef jerky and yogurt and doing some push-ups. So I think that the fact that you're able to make that work is pretty cool.
I don't think you even under very bad conditions, like I don't even think you lose muscle until like a month. Like the feeling of being depleted, or I don't know if that's factual or not, 2 to 4 weeks, somewhere around there. Like,
yeah.
But the feeling of being depleted doesn't mean you actually have lost progress. You know, you could be lacking electrolytes, you know, or whatever, like dehydrated as fuck. Like every time I leave for tour, I always feel pretty good and I feel pretty full. And even if I am on my best behavior the whole tour, I come home feeling very flat and depleted. But after 4 or 5 days, I'm like pretty much back to where I was. See, does that make sense? I don't know.
No, for sure. I mean, I'd guess most of the depletion you feel is probably nutrition related because you're basically just cramming yourself full of like protein and nothing else.
Very low carb on tour. Yeah. And that, I feel like that contributes a lot to it. So.
Yeah. I wonder if that's part of how you're able to keep like a pretty reasonable body composition too, is like accidental cyclic dieting. Like you're eating like a bunch of healthy carbs and stuff while you're at home working out hard. And then when you go on tour, you're basically doing like high protein, low carb diets just because that's your only option unless you want to eat total just like basically junk food. No, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's worked for me personally. And touring is, I mean, it's great because I love playing shows. And I love music because, you know, that's the whole thing, right? But every other part of touring, I muscle through it. I would much rather. I'm very. I like routine, and you don't get that on tour. I mean, you have some sort of routine because you're going to the same gas station every day and driving the same, but it's just
not a good routine.
It's not a good routine, you know. I like waking up and going to the gym, taking a shower, get on my computer, do whatever I want, go work out again, and you know, like, just I don't know. So
yeah, for sure. No, I think it's interesting. You know, when I was late high school or early college, maybe, and I was like, you know, maybe I want to take a shot at being a musician. I was in a band and everything, and I did some like things that were similar to touring, and realized like I hate this. I don't want to do that. And it's like it seems like it was like an indie rock band. It's if MySpace was still around, you could listen to the music, but it got all deleted in the purge. But it seems like, right, like touring probably only becomes cool if you're like one of the mega bands, right? Like you're on private jets and in like 5-star hotels. Then it might not be so bad. But below anything besides like the top highest tier, it's a big grind. Like it's a lot of driving and sitting around and, like you said, not having any of your creature comforts and kind of like surviving off of whatever food you can find.
And, you know, you just miss your family, just all that kind of stuff, you know? So it's just, and, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining by any means. I would much rather be on the road for a few months and then get to do whatever I want than be working at wherever, you know, personally. So I don't want to sound like I am complaining, but, you know, just traveling is tiring. And
yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's not so much a complaint, I think, as much as just like pointing out the realities of it. Like, yeah, it's awesome. You get to do something that's probably a lot of people's dreams, and you admittedly enjoy the cool parts of it, but it does have parts that a lot of people probably don't realize are not that fun. Right. You mentioned missing your family. You got married recently. Does your wife come with you on tour, or does she stay back at home?
No. So she is a nurse in the Army. So she got stationed to Virginia, and I moved out to Virginia with her. So she can't really travel because of the military.
Gotcha.
So yeah, we're out here right now. So I guess I miss my family all the time at this point, you know. But this is we'll be back in. I'm from Toledo, Ohio, so we'll be back in Toledo in like a year and a half or so. So
yeah. So when you're on tour, she's stationed, so you guys are apart when you're touring.
Yes.
Yeah. So that adds to the challenge of it all, I'm sure.
Yeah, she's not a musician, so I mean, well, I guess she dabbles in things, but she doesn't tour, so she, I don't. Even if she wasn't in the military, I don't think she'd really be on the road anyway.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
But yeah, I've been touring for like 10 years at this point, so I'm, numb
Used
to
to
it
at this point.
Yeah, I'm numb to it.
I guess so we talked a little bit about how you eat and stuff when you're on tour and how you kind of like do the body weight stuff to maintain your fitness. How do you sleep when you're on tour? Because like obviously you're sleeping probably kind of wherever you can, but
yeah, it's pretty bad on tour. It's just so we recently switched to this thing called a bandwagon, which is essentially a tour bus. An affordable tour bus, I guess you could say, right? Which it's still very expensive, but so in my head, because I'm used to you play the show and then you drive till 1 or 2 a.m. You get as much sleep as you can. You wake up at 8 a.m. and you drive till 2 a.m. but you don't go to sleep till 3:30 a.m. Like 4, whatever. So I'm used to not getting that much sleep. And we recently made the transition to this bus bandwagon, and it has bunks and stuff. And I was really excited about it because now I can just play a show, load out, and go to sleep.
Yeah,
and wake up whenever I want. And but the things are so bumpy that the whole time that I'm trying to sleep, I'm like 50% sleep. What's that called? I'm not in REM sleep. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like where you're like conscious, I think I'm asleep right now. But then I like wake up and, oh my God, it's almost better to just go to the hotels, But sleeping on the road sucks because you just drive late and then you gotta leave early. That's what's affected the most. And I sing, right? So, did you sing in your band?
I did. Yeah.
You did? Cool. Yeah. So sleep's important for us, right? I mean, a bad night of sleep, I'll wake up and my voice it'll be shot, And so that's something I struggle with a lot on the road is the lack of sleep really hurts my ability to sing, which is my one sole reason I'm on the road, right? So it sucks, I had to take some what's in ZQuil? Something's in I started taking ZQuil on my last tour because I couldn't sleep and I had no voice and I had to have something to help me out. And I started wearing earplugs actually, and that kind of helped.
Maybe.
Yeah, face mask, earplugs, and I've never done that before. That actually helps quite a bit.
That helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I've used those too when I travel. Unfortunately, I'm kind of a light sleeper, so I need it dark and quiet, which is not always in your control. And it's the earplugs and the sleep mask can help for sure. There's some other nutritional supplements that can really help with sleep too. We could chat about that more after the podcast, but I can completely relate. And then as far as recovering for singing, if you don't people, you're using muscles and your vocal cords and there's soft tissue that it basically has micro damage that you need to sleep and recover. So I can imagine if you're not sleeping, it compounds into a big issue. It's the same for me. I have 2 young kids now. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And so I'm not singing or really doing much for music at all anymore, but I do a lot for working out. And it's I have my training schedule and stuff like that. And I know that if I have a bad night's sleep, my training the next day is either going to suck or it's just not going to happen because I just won't have recovered,
Yeah.
So I can totally relate.
Yeah. It's, as I get older, once again, I value sleep.
Yeah.
So much more. It's just crazy to think about when I was 18 and I could just pull an all-nighter and then I'd go fucking rip an insane workout in the morning and you know what I'm saying? I don't know, then go play a show in Toledo later that night. It was just how? I couldn't even, if I get 5 hours of sleep now, I wake up and I'm where am I?
Youth is truly the best performance enhancing drug of all of them.
Right? Yeah.
I remember the same thing. Like, when I was 18 or whatever, I could do whatever I wanted. It didn't matter. But yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about kind of like the challenges of touring and all that and your fitness. Let's talk about some of the good parts of your musical career, because obviously you've done something that a lot of people try and never achieve, which is to be able to make a living being a band and touring. You said you've been touring for 10 years. I guess, like, what was the year that you first felt like Citizen as a band was able to kind of like support you in its entirety, and you're like, okay, this is happening?
So we got the Warped Tour offer in 2013, and it was that year we released an album called Youth, and I told everybody that I was going to do Warped Tour and then I'm done. I'm going to go to college. Because at that point, I drained all of my savings. We were just on the road all the time. I was miserable on the road, and losing. I was like, I can't survive like this. I just can't. Like, I got to see and do some cool things. I'm calling it, And then we did Warped Tour, and it was great. And after that Warped Tour, I got my first paycheck from Citizen, And I was like, maybe I could. And granted, it wasn't shit. It was literally like maybe, I can't, $900 to $1,000. It was like something like that. And I was like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't even believe it. I was like, oh my God. I was just gone for 8 weeks and made that, it was like, so I was like, whoa, like maybe this could be a thing, So I was like, okay, like ride this out a little bit longer. And thankfully things just worked out really well for us. There's a lot of bands that are way better than us and way more talented in every aspect. I know like 4 chords. I'm writing a song. I wrote like 100 songs. They're all the same song. I'm not doing anything cool. They're literally all the same song. So, and there's so many people that don't get that stroke of luck that we got, and very thankful for that. And I'm pretty happy I decided to to not be a quitter, right? So
yeah. Hey, you can do a lot with 4 chords, right? Like Blink-182 is one of the biggest
right,
bands
yeah,
ever
there you go.
with
There's
4
another
chords.
example. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, that's cool, man. So do you feel like you mentioned luck, and that luck was obviously a component. I guess, how much of your success do you attribute to the luck, and how much do you attribute to the kind of hard work aspect? Because you mentioned that bands that are maybe more talented or better musicians, but the work is kind of like a component inside of your control too, right? Being able to tour and put up with the grind and put yourself kind of like in the way of success.
I mean, to an extent, like yeah, like you have to tour and you have to put yourself out there. Like if you want to do anything in art, I mean, you could be an oil painter. Like you have to put yourself out there. But the truth is, like, some things just don't stick for whatever reason, and I have no idea. There's bands that I love that can't draw 20 people to a New York show, and it's like, why? Like, they're amazing, I truly don't get it. There's bands that tour way more than Citizen has or ever had, and they don't do very well, and they're better than us, and it's like, I don't know why. I think Citizen came up at a time where the internet was Tumblr was a big thing at the time when Citizen was first starting, and people on Tumblr loved us for whatever reasons. It was like emo was like a big thing on Tumblr, and we caught a wave, luckily, and that wave carried us into other places, and I do think a lot of it is luck. Like I said, a lot of bands do more work way harder than us and don't have it as good. And there's bands that work less less than us and have it way better. Like I just don't, like I don't understand how it works. I legitimately don't. Being in a band is like very high highs and very low lows. It's a very it's an emotional roller coaster. I mean, you could play a show and you could feel awesome. Like, oh man, it could be a sold out show and the crowd was awesome and they're singing every word and you just feel really good about yourself. And then the next day you play and it's a quarter sold room and people are standing there with their fucking arms crossed, acting like your dick's hanging out of your pants. And you're like, man, I feel like such a loser right now. Like, why do I feel like such a loser? I felt so cool last night. It's just, I don't understand. I don't understand how things work. And maybe luck is the wrong word. I don't know, but that's just the way I feel.
No, I'm sure there is a component of luck and like part of it is there's just so much outside of your control if you want to be successful as a band or as a musician, right? Yeah. Like you have to get introduced to the right people. You have to be able to kind of like intuit some of the things. Like I'm sure luck was part of it, but I'm sure also like you guys probably did some things like with Tumblr that you just kind of like, maybe it just made sense to you, but it was something that you did in your control, right? And like, man,
we weren't even on Tumblr. It was just we weren't personally on Tumblr. It was just people that were on Tumblr started sending us links and they were like, oh, this thing is viral right now. Or like, whatever, like, look at how many reposts this has. And we were like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We just caught a wave and it worked out really well for us. So,
yeah. No, I mean, that's awesome and also interesting. I think that was kind of like one of the things I realized too when I was, making my feeble attempts at musicianship was like I knew guys in other bands that were wildly talented and not getting success, or they would have a little bit and then it would fall and then they'd have to go back and work. And then I was like, man, this just looks so tough. And it is tough. But the fact that you guys have been able to achieve a level of success is awesome. You mentioned that, with the luck involved and with the hardships, if someone listening to this had aspirations or dreams of kind of like pursuing music as a career, what would you tell them?
I say do it. I mean, the reality of anything like anything involving the arts or like, there's no promises. It's not getting a stable job that's going to be there for a long time. I guess nothing makes promises, but something more stable. Like if you're going to take a risk, I just feel like you should just do it. And
yeah,
I mean, like really, like what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to fail, but you'll have cool experiences. And then you go get a job and like do whatever you want all the time. Like that's pretty cool. Or you go and you take the shot and maybe it works out. And then, I don't know. I think that's really cool. And I encourage it when people are like, Matt, I want to start a band. Like, what do I do? I'm just like, go tour. That's the first thing I'll say to anybody. It's like, make friends and don't be a douchebag and go tour. And if it sticks, it sticks. That's awesome. If not, like you wrote some music that you love and you traveled and you saw a bunch of things and you made a bunch of friends. Now you got friends everywhere. That's awesome. You go back home and have all these friends and experiences. That's awesome. Like that's one of my probably my favorite thing about touring is, I know so many people and most of my closest friends, people I talk to every single day, I FaceTime every day. Like they're not people from Toledo, they're people that I met on tour or that I met through the band. Like the band has given me so many relationships that I value so much. And that's the coolest part about being in a band. So I would never want to rob anybody of that experience. I think everybody should experience something like that. you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's better to live with like having tried and failed than the regret of never having tried at all, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I did enough with my musician stuff when I was younger that I'm totally comfortable with how that went. Like I tried, I realized I didn't like it. I'm good. I don't have to live wondering what would have happened. And if
Yeah.
someone wanted to pursue it more than I did, obviously, I think you would be much better off like giving it a real shot. And if it doesn't work out, like it doesn't work out. But like you said, you'll have the memories and the experiences, and you'll know that you tried. And I think that's really good advice.
And wouldn't that would even apply to like you, like with barbell apparel, right? Like that's a risk. Like you know how many people I know that started clothing companies that it's not a clothing company anymore because nobody bought it. Like you took a risk and now you're chilling in your seemingly very nice house, drinking with your kids, and you know, I think everybody. I feel like if you have an idea that you should just take a nice swing at it. And if you fail, I mean, there's no shame in failing. There's so many people that don't even do that. So
Yeah.
why not? Right?
No, for sure. Hey, yeah, and I mean that's an interesting comparison because like barbell apparel was a wild risk to take and also involved a decent amount of luck. And I mean, business has ongoing risks, right? Like barbell apparel could still go out of business one day. Who knows? Knock on wood. Hopefully it doesn't.
Yeah.
But even if it did, like I know that we've done the best we could have done, and I'm very proud of what we achieved, no matter what happens in the future. And I think that's like the best way to live your life, right? Is like don't wait till some unknown future date to pursue the things that are meaningful to you or that you want to try. Like try them now. And like I said, the worst that can happen is it doesn't work out, but at least you tried and now you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Words to live by, you know?
yeah, for
So,
sure. No, it's awesome. I guess what do you guys have on the future plans for Citizen?
so we're doing, we just, a few months ago, we finished our last tour for the year, and we're actually doing a new record in February is when we start recording. So there's that. And next year is the 10-year for youth. So we're thinking about doing a couple shows for that. So everything is just kind of, we have a very open year next year, and we're kind of figuring out what to do and what we want to do and what feels good. And, you know, yeah, clean slate really, besides recording. That's 100% happening in February next year in LA. So,
Nice.
yeah.
No, it's awesome. I'm excited to hear the new music when it comes out. Well, Matt, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. It's been a fun conversation. If our listeners want to follow along with you, obviously they can listen to Citizen on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever else people get music. I listen to it on Spotify. But
Cool.
where should they, if they want to follow you along personally, where should they do that at?
Citizen the band is the Instagram.
Nice.
Citizen MI is the Twitter, even though I guess we're from Toledo. I grew up in Lambertville, Michigan, which is like right on the border of Ohio where Toledo is. So I started Citizen, it was Michigan, but everybody is from Ohio, you know. But yeah. So
Awesome. Cool. Well, we'll be sure to follow along. Look forward to hearing the new music once it's released. But again, thank you for taking the time to chat today, and we'll have to chat again soon.
hell yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Likewise.